so welcome to Europa Universalis 3 with the mod Magna Mundi, which makes it significantly harder and adds things like administrative efficiency and a lot of other features. And we are playing as Scandinavia. We started with the idea that as long as you keep the union of the Scandinavian countries when your administrative efficiency is at maximum, you can annex one of the minor countries in the union. That is because historically in this game, it almost always ends up in a Denmark-Sweden war, which happened only because the Danes tried to make it into a strong union. And I'm starting with the idea of making it a republic as quickly as possible. So I'm buying the piece of the factions and RPing it that way. Now the main change that I noticed, which was very interesting, was that UK formed about 100 years earlier than historically. And because I'm playing peaceful Scandinavia, because if I were to have Scandinavia, my expansionist desires would be very small because of the very low population and very high unurban area ratio. So there's a lot to develop, but very little need to take more space to develop. It isn't a highly developed island like the UK, for example. So I'm about 100 years behind on the colonial race because I focused on developing my internal structures first. And it's 1605. And in 1605, we have managed to take, it's actually 1600, exactly 1600. I can't move the map around this load screen because it shows areas which my nation doesn't know, and I consider that cheating, so I can't show you the North American continent yet. Let me load this. And here it is. As you can see, the French North America is pretty close to these empty lands that are still available. I'm too distant from them because my closest city is at Skalot or Holar. And these aren't cities yet, they recently made colonies. And I plan to expand these into cities, and then if I still have time before the French do it, I'm gonna take the North American coast, all this part here. But this is probably permanent terra incognita, which means it can't be explored at any point. And so is the back area here of Greenland. And I'm trying to get the coastline opposite to Greenland and some distance inland in the traditional North American continent, because a lot of my provinces have a fairly high population, like Stockholm has 200,000 people living in it, while Moscow has 280,000. So I'm starting to approach what I can only term to be major population status. Moscow is growing at 6% a year, and I'm growing at 28% a year. That's because I have an enormous amount of religious refugees coming in from Europe. And that's basically how I'm playing this. I'm playing the humanist. I have humanist tolerance, bureaucracy, patron of the arts, and Bill of Rights, and then one navy and one engineering idea. Eventually gonna get things like scientific revolution, ecumenism, and a lot of these other things to get a kind of good humanitarian society. These tolerances are still incredibly low. because I should have these tolerances at least like +2, +3, but I have a low legitimacy, which reduces tolerance as well as not having enough of the things like humanist tolerance, but I do have some of them. And I still can't give full citizenship to the Jews because I don't have the liberty, equality, and fraternity idea, which is this one. It gives more tolerance of other cultures and some production bonuses and such, but mainly it's for the tolerance. And thus, I'm getting a lot of immigrants from Europe. I started at bad relations with the Holy Roman Empire, and I thought that even if I keep peace with them, but they declare war on me due to the bad relations, the relation status won't improve. So I was pretty despondent about my chances with Germany. But it turns out as long as you don't declare war on them, but they declare war on you, the relation event will actually keep improving, which means if I actually, as a unified Scandinavia, forgo the German religious wars and focus mainly on my own issues on the North American continent, there is not a high chance, but there is a realistic chance that in the next 250 years that we can keep playing this, I will at least once be the Roman emperor. That's a pretty huge deal. Neither Holy nor Roman nor an empire. It was, in fact, a very loose federation. They had trouble for hundreds of years even establishing any kind of basic form of unified taxation, not to mention military. That took them like 300 years after it was actually close to 700 years after it was turned into the Holy Roman Empire until they had a unified military. If you think of the colonies in the US, the independence movement basically started at the latest in 1750 or 1760. And its official start date was basically 1770. And they had a unified military under a good leader in less than 10 years. So if you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. When you're the powerful guy and you know that the previous paradise was destroyed because you got too powerful, you might want to keep it into a loose federation. And that's the Holy Roman Empire. Countries joined it, countries left it, countries not in it actually ran it at historic times with the acceptance of the population and various other things. It, in general, seemed to be something comparable to the best system in Europe. But it was very unable to contain large-scale religious wars. When the people lost their faith in the religious part of their society, then basically they all killed each other indiscriminately for 100 years while everybody took part. They literally took turns tying each party down and beating it up with a stick. Then they waited for the other party to be at a different position in relation to what it was before and then beat it with a stick. Germany lost something like 10-20% of its entire male population or something. Or entire population even, I don't know. Here's the trade volume map. As you can notice, Britain ain't doing too hard. I'm doing well. All my provinces, these fresh colonies in the North American or Greenland continent, are still red. but all my actual possessions are yellow or green. It's good. So you notice here I still have claims on St. Petersburg, Kexholm, and Karelia, but haven't felt the need to get into a war with Russia. Probably could because they've been weak at a couple of points, but I don't feel like just getting into a war with them. There's other things to do. There's better things to do at the moment. Russia is still pretty weak. It's starting to expand in the east, as you can see. But with regards to West, it's still surpassed by most likely the Ottoman Empire. In fact, they are roughly at the same level. Poland is a little bit weaker, but they're still holding on, and so is actually Ukraine, which isn't very historic, but it is here. This is what timelines do. Estonia joined with Latvia and took a couple of provinces of Russia. They're mainly able to hold them because they're allied with a lot of powerful European nations. Britain is undergoing something pretty severe, and Portugal is incredibly strong. Britain is stronger than Portugal, but none of these major nations have any of the important technological things like scientific revolution, which is incredibly important to get as early as possible. But this is looking pretty bad for the British. The French are also not doing too hot. The French are again at war with the Empire. There's a fairly large Arab nation in North Africa. It also contains parts of Spain. Spain never unified. So it's divided, and Portugal is by far the strongest nation in it. Italy is doing its historic thing, but seems a little bit stronger than it usually is. The Turks never took Thrace, as in Constantinople, as well as Athens and a few other provinces in Greece, but they expanded very strongly towards Russia and the Middle East. The Turks are, and this is 1600, about to overtake Egypt. They're about to conquer Egypt and get a lot more provinces, which should keep the Russians a bit weaker in Europe. The Russians, due to expanding east, as can be seen on this map, based on how far the word expands and then probably a little bit east of it, are very strong. So I should take them on before they are too strong. They are at disorganized administration. So I should probably take them on before they get anywhere near good administration. They're at military tech 22 with 5 government ideas. I'm at 6 government ideas and military tech of 22. My government is far more advanced than theirs is that I'm about to get my 7th idea, though it will still take a while. All these universities, neighboring bonuses and such don't mean squat compared to my budget, because if I max out the government technology and don't make any money, it's going to be 220, actually even more than that. 243 from budget and neighboring bonuses 10, so I'm not that far behind. But for now, I need to make money. There's a couple of very expensive things I need to build for my empire. So that seems to be the discussion part. Let me know in the comments here in the chat if you have any questions about this nation or anything that we're doing with it. Felt like I'd been talking for half an hour. Because this one has 50 growth per year and this has 20 growth per year, but a higher starting population. I'll probably go with West Begotten. I need to focus on single province and then get these two as quickly as possible. So I can't hire explorers, but being neighboring to their colony actually gives me a slight bonus. The bonus in chance of seeing the other colonies. You can see the French are at the border of Labrador. They'll probably colonize it pretty soon, and I'll be left with Greenland. Then I have to develop pretty highly and look for a good opportunity to bounce France and take some of the North American continent colonies if they are too powerful in the East. I don't intend to ever give these colonies independence because I don't ever plan to disband this union. But to make that happen, I have to keep them at very low taxation and very high service level, and that they won't be disgruntled. And even then, it's pretty difficult. They are very likely to still want independence, which I completely understand. I have a low amount of things being constructed because I used the administrators that I got in extra to remove the other nations, as in this case Denmark's core and these provinces, so that the rebels are just rebels instead of Danish nationals. I'm probably gonna do Norway's capital next. That seems like a good idea. That's if I take Akershus, that's 4 provinces. That's gonna take me a while. Because my focus is now here, and you can only do next to your focus, and none of these are rebels that would be nationals instead of what can only be described as internationals. I'm also thinking of maybe needing a new trade center, but it doesn't seem likely. Seems at the point that I will slowly take these edge provinces and then maybe take their trade centers, but I need a significantly better relation with the Holy Roman Empire before I can even think about it. See what factories we can build. I don't think grain has any factories. Daju has that I know. I think it's textile manufacturer. Yeah, Daju. Weapons are iron, copper, and lead. Naval is hemp, copper, and naval supplies. Hemp was surprisingly important throughout history, mostly because it was one of the easiest to access usable painkillers, as well as the fact that it was very, very good for making rope. But while we pay attention to the fact that it was in fact a naval supply, in that a large portion of Navy rope and sails was in fact made from hemp, you cannot underestimate the fact of how difficult it is to get painkillers in the medieval world. And I'm not talking alcohol, I'm talking actual painkillers. How difficult it is in that time. Even antibiotics were easily available. They weren't very powerful, and I don't mean general anti-life, I mean actual antibacteria. The thing was that people knew that certain kinds of molds are good for you. They didn't know exactly why, but in the previous era, during shamanism, it was understood that if you put what kills your disease in that you take your disease, take a sample of it, put it in some place, and watch what kills it, and you put both the device that kills it as well as the byproduct of its dying into your body, then you will most likely kill the disease in your body. And that developed into the antibiotic system, but by the Middle Ages, they'd lost the reason of it, but not the method of it. So they had this thing called altar bread, which wasn't the standard, like, Christian supper thing that you get at their Thanksgiving or whatever. It was a piece of bread that's been stored in a dry place behind the altar until it starts to grow mold. And when you had a particularly vicious disease, they would instruct you to eat that bread. So that was antibiotic. So do not underestimate the fact that they actually had antibiotics. So antibiotics were available, but actual efficient painkillers were very rare, were hard to come by, which is why weed was, when it was actually available in forms of painkillers, somewhat widely used. Everybody, of course, preferred opium, but it's not all that available during the Middle Ages. As you can see in the Game of Thrones, when they drink that white liquid that they call, like, I think it was tears of something, or the essence of something, essence of nightshade, I think. It's opium. And opium wasn't very commonly available during the Middle Ages, so having it available was a huge luxury. And of course, most common people had to do with alcohol, but when you had weed, you had weed. Then some people took it a bit far with the assassin cult and so on and so forth. But the fact that it was for rope making and used for a long while was not in any way new. I can't build the banking things because they lower stability and increase stability cost, and I have a pretty large domain with a pretty high stability cost. And I'm going to remain Catholic because when you are a Catholic nation, you can send missionaries to Rome, which means that you have a chance of converting the Catholic Church into your viewpoint. And when you leave Catholicism or Catholicism, you no longer have that option. You don't have the option of influencing the Pope. And I, as a very secular nation, have a very low amount of missionaries that I get. But after I build some of these things, for a while, I will be having a lot more missionaries, and I don't want one of these to be full if I can help it. There's very little to do in terms of diplomacy, and it's a lot of work. You have to fairly consistently keep clicking, and it's not for me. And I've yet to find any worthy use for spies. Basically, making a core claim with spies is possible, but that's about it. And since I haven't even enforced my earlier cores, and I rarely enforce cores because the process of getting cores, if the cultures are even remotely similar, is soothing. It gives you a level of how common the people are with one another, and then 3 layers to each level, and then you just wait. It's like 3 years, and then it tells you it's advanced a single level, and the people are this and this level, and it's probably gonna take this long, and then it just waits. The damn winter event is causing my colonies in Greenland to die. Hope it's not a long winter. There's also an event here, which I might want to use. I don't have land of opportunity or colonial venture, so forget that. Poland, well, theoretically. $204, I need to send one to Eriksteden. March and this. Soon I'll have another one of those factories built. Still gonna take 1,500 days. it's going to roughly double the tax income that the province produces as a total when you build a single factory in it. That's what this game is roughly looking at. If it's like a major city, it naturally won't be that much. And these factories give you a theoretical bonus of 60 your income, but if they're built in the province that specializes in the good that the factory is using, then you get 12. And some of these provinces are very fancy, so it's gonna be interesting getting the 12 income on all of these provinces. There's many that can still be upgraded, but I'm waiting for the total production value to be significantly higher. I had high taxation on Stockholm because of the high population growth, so I had high taxation to reduce it, but the people kind of rebelled, so now I'm just keeping it at a normal while I'm keeping all the other provinces low. Trying to attract as many people from continental Europe as possible to make as large a nation as possible. If you consider that we are in the 1600s, Stockholm's population is 220,000 and London is 170,000 and Paris is 157,000 and Moscow is 280,000. We're doing pretty well. I don't have any possibility of hiring explorers because my first explorer died at sea. I got one of them and then he died. I didn't get him back to my home turf quickly enough. And there is no other option here for making an explorer, which reminds me I need to hire I think it was a trader. Yeah, a trader. It's this guy. Can't go with the Jewish special characters yet because they give a national revolt, whereas mine is already fairly high. Especially with the Years of No Winter event. Years of No Summer. I'm reducing my energy in drink intake to one with sugar and one without most. Total, so 2 maximum, and I'm preferring to stay with 1. Can't believe Britain is getting its ass handed to it by Portugal and Netherlands. So it seems Great Britain was unable to maintain its unification. There's even Wales. Soon there will be Ireland as well. Chose naval because that might be just what's needed to reduce the lack of interest in naval affairs trigger, which is causing me a great deal of headache because it's reducing a lot of my naval attributes quite significantly. To the point where I'm thinking of selecting a second naval idea, even though it would be a disastrously bad idea for me. I need the ideas for a lot of other stuff than building a lot of ships. The years without summer are really hurting me. The low stability is pretty detrimental. It's usually about $3,000 to get another level of stability, and now it's 15 grand. There's no way I'm gonna spend 5 years worth of budget just building my stability. Instead, I will wait until we get this one's actually pretty useless. This one's very useful. So there's no need to build religious buildings until I get 2 more tiers of religious buildings. The advisor cost is not something that it's even worth looking at. And this religious university might be worth building at some point, but not in any near future. So it's gonna be Court of Justice. And because that requires a population, it's then gonna be this whole path. So it's gonna be a lot of Court of Justices for a while. But I'm nowhere near as powerful as I'm in the Japan game, because in the Japan game I entirely forgoed the Korean and Chinese scuffles, and I focused entirely on starting at the very eastern part of the Siberian landmass well before the Russians had expanded anywhere near even the central of it. Like in the 16th century, and by the 17th century, I had an enormous industry because those territories produced a great deal of metals that I needed. So I had a huge amount of money. I got about as far west as that one very important island somewhere north of China, which name escapes me. And then I sat down and didn't go further because it was starting to affect my national administrative efficiency. To quote the spirit, I'm not really doing colonies. I'm just looking at where there's space and expanding there. I'm not thinking of them in terms of colonies, meaning that they need to produce for the motherland that we benefit from it. I'm just, in fact, for the first 100 years in my style, colonies can actually cost you and not make you money. But as a result of it, the culture and everything else will be very similar and it will be pretty good. I'm gonna do apply it to the economy because this investment is minuscule. But the inflation reduction of 0.15 is an enormous amount. Now we're talking an inflation reduction of 0.27, which is actually pretty decent. Means if I have 20% of my tax base based on solely printing more money, I will be able to still have a deflation. Inflation in this game is the bane of all things, and there's essentially only one way to make sure that your inflation is controlled, other than being, god damn it. There's one with you garrisons. Luckily, they weren't an anti-Jewish mob, or we'd have all the Jews fleeing the country. I need to get to stronghold technology as quickly as I can because there's no way I can hold the islands against any kind of invasion. The mainland, sure, but not the islands. Because you can dump a single landing fleet worth of guys in the island against a very token garrison. And by the time I organize my guys on the opposite side, you'll have a lot of guys on an island and you'll have a distinct defensive advantage. So instead of using my ground army to maintain those islands, I need to build fortifications, which means that you'll be tied down island hopping while I'll actually have more space to just do my things, but that takes some time. And the mainland is very secure. It has never been successfully invaded more than like a province depth from the shore. Because shore landings are a different thing when you do them to the mainland. They mean that I can actually organize a good defense against them. We are looking to become the Pope. We're also looking to become the Holy Roman Emperor, so keep that in mind. So we don't want to harm them unduly. Now that it looks like I won't be able to take the North American continent's corner before the French come in, it comes to my next actual war, and because these provinces are still uncored, but I actually have cores on the Russian part, it means that I'm looking more towards Russia. Ireland will soon declare independence, I think. These guys aren't supposed to siege. Maybe now it'll be a little bit better. What are you doing? I'm almost entirely forgoing my military development tech tree in terms of provincial buildings. Feel like my military is strong enough. My economy, on the other hand, can do with a lot of work. I have about 45,000 professionals. Think I might want to go sell some cigarettes to buy some energy drinks. We've been playing for longer than I thought we'd play. It's interesting that the unified Estonia, Latvia got their own trade center. It's too small to last, but it's interesting. They managed to somehow destroy the trade center in Danzig. It'll actually last pretty well. Or Novgorod. They're at a pretty tight place. My trade centers are so well supported by me that most of the Scandinavian trade goes to them. If it's immediately across the channel to this Lubeck, then they trade there. Starting to feel like playing the state simulator again. So you can see there's now a lot more buildings under construction because I'm not using my administrators to remove the cores. I'll do that eventually, but I need to be at low taxation at that point. this is enough for this one. I need a lot more missionaries, by the way, to have any chance of affecting Rome, so it's gonna take me 100 years to build the buildings to get them, so forget being the Pope for a while. Now that we have almost reached the extent of our foray into the North American continent, and Russia is expanding like mad to the east while having a very low administrative efficiency, we might take this opportunity, but it doesn't seem likely yet. We'll see what transpires. Thank you for watching.